All right, we are live. How's everybody going? How's everybody doing? Excuse me. Hope you guys have all been able to have a wonderful weekend. I was out of town this weekend, so apologies about not any new content, but I really wanted to get on here tonight before I literally pass out because man, I just had to get this off my chest, and I'm hoping that all of this is a wonderful learning experience, not only for Dan Campbell, but for other young, in terms of experience, head coaches that are continuing to learn, the nuances of what it takes to manage a game as a head coach. And hey, really flawed's already checking in. Viral authority, thank you so much. Please hit that like, legend. Love that. I will get to your comments here soon, but I need to get this off my chest. Guys, you know that there has been this trend in the NFL to be aggressive, to always be going for it on fourth down. You see on Monday Night Football, they have that little analytics thing in these tough situations on like third down or fourth down. They say, like, the analytics say do this or go for it or don't go for it or kick the field goal or punt, all this stuff, right? You see it in college football. Again, I really like how Dan Lanning coaches the Oregon Ducks to always play aggressive. However, same thing with Dan Lanning, same thing with Brandon Staley. Now the same thing with Dan Campbell. It's like, my goodness, not every situation and not every game is the same. You got to read the room. You got to read where the momentum is at, right? This loss on the for the Detroit Lions, in my opinion, is completely on Dan Campbell because that man not once but twice just absolutely killed any momentum and confidence that his team had and allowed the 49ers to get back in the game. And my hope is that Coach Prime, I know we got one of the best quarterbacks in college football coming back this year, right? But this is just very specific. When we are going up against an opponent that is at the same level, if not greater than us, on the road, on the road, just take the points. Just take the points, especially when you take the points and it extends a lead from a two possession lead to a three possession lead, or cuts you down from a uh, you know, a possession deficit to a one possession deficit, right? Like these types of things, especially when you are on the road. When you are on the road, because when you're on the road, momentum can go back to that home team very quickly. And if that team has been the better team throughout the entire season, uh, it makes no sense to just be giving them gimmies the entire time. We've seen, this past year, questionable game management decisions. Of course, probably the most popular one was against Oregon State at the end of the first half. The ball's on like the 5-yard line, right? And we're just airing it out. And I mean, that kills the momentum. I think Coach Prime learned a valuable lesson there. Like, even though you got one of the best quarterbacks in college football, like sometimes you just need, same with Shador, right? Sometimes you just got to throw it out of bounds. Sometimes you got to scrap the play and go on to the next. Okay. Coach Prime, we cannot allow any of this. Like, yes, and you can say that Dan Campbell is the right man for the job, that he's turned around the culture of the Detroit Lions. Absolutely. Just like I think Coach Prime, of course, is the right man for the job coaching Colorado, right? But Dan Campbell did a disservice to his team and those long suffering Detroit Lions fans by not reading the room and just making the decisions that in that moment that make the most sense, that aren't going to cause a large swing of momentum, that's still going to keep your team mentally checked in and engaged. And this man, not once, but twice, opted to go for it on fourth down in conditions that were great for field goal kicking. And at the NFL level, you should have plenty of confidence and there should be no reason why you're not taking like a 35-yard field goal or whatever that was in the third quarter. And then the second one to tie up the game. It was to tie up the game. That's right. And it was a 48-yard field goal in perfect conditions out there. That is absolutely makeable at the NFL level. And you say, well, they wanted to keep the whole um, they were aggressive the whole year. Guys, look at their schedule. Look at their schedule. There was not one team that they played, especially on the road, that was as good as the 49ers were the whole year. You got to manage things differently when you're going up against teams that are just as good as you or better than you, especially on the road, especially on the road. And you know what was the other team that they faced that was a very similar situation? The freaking Dallas Cowboys. Look at their schedule. I'm just going to share my team or my screen right now. But this is like the part of the nuance stuff that like really frustrates me with head coaches. You like Brandon Staley, analytics guy, it was not being able to understand how to read the room, how to read momentum. That's what got him fired. And he probably did what the analytics told him to do all the time, right? Guys, look at their regular season schedule. Okay. Kansas City on the road. So I forgot about Kansas City. So one for 3 on fourth down. Okay. They got that win week 1. I'll give that to them. Okay. I'll give that to them. So, yeah, totally misreading Kansas City. But if you look at the rest of their schedule, just cupcakes. Okay. Just cupcakes. Teams that they are better than. Seattle, Atlanta, Green Bay, Carolina, Tampa Bay. They blew out Baltimore, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Chargers, Chicago Bears, Green Bay, New Orleans, Chicago Bears, Denver Broncos, Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Cowboys on the road, Minnesota. And I mean, you saw how that Dallas Cowboys game played out to where they have a second, they're going for it for some reason at the end of the game. They score, but there's a penalty, whatever. Anyways, I forget what the exact situation is, but instead of, just kicking the extra point after the field goal, Dan Campbell decides with the ball in like the 7-yard line that he's going to go for 2. Again, you had all the momentum. Dallas was choking. Totally could have taken that game to overtime and won it. But this man does not understand nuance. And I'm hoping that this is something that he changes because, again, I think he is the man for the job. But I mean, this whole thing is just ridiculous. I mean, against the Los Angeles Chargers or the Los Angeles Rams, this is a 1-point victory. And you know what? You were trotting your you were trotting your field goal kicker out there to make a freaking 54-yard field goal. You had your field goal kicker out there in the divisional round as well, making a field goal or 2 against the Tampa Bay Bucks. What the hell are you doing, Dan Campbell? And this is something that it just, again, I know you always want to go for it when you feel like you got the best offense out there, right? But this does a disservice next year or whatever if we're always putting pressure on Shador to be that guy. If sometimes you take the points, you know what happens? There's not that pressure on Jared Goff at the end of the game. They lost by 3. You know what? How many points they gave up? Not taking those field goals, 6 points. I mean, that's the difference right there. And then the Niners scored 10 points off of those flips, off of those, fourth down turnovers. Crazy, man. Total. And for Dan Campbell to be so arrogant to do this with a long-suffering fan base, inexcusable. They deserve somebody in that moment to be making the decisions with brains, with real logic. And like Coach Prime, we need you to be making the right decisions in those clutch moments, in those big games. Say we are in a Big 12 championship, right? Or in a game to make the Big 12 championship. A place where we haven't been in forever. You can't do that to us. You can't do that to us. You can't always be putting so much pressure on Shador, to make those plays every single drive. We have a kicker for a reason. We got Mata, okay? We got Mata right now, and I understand where his leg is at right now. Okay, you want to go for it on the 45-yard line or the 40-yard line? Absolutely, like fine. But in this specific instance, with Dan Campbell having a great field goal kicker in Michael Badgley, somebody who at the NFL level is making those kicks. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. He completely killed momentum for his team and just killed. Like, what a terrible way for the Detroit Lions fans to end this season off of some boneheaded, dumbass game management decision making. So please, Coach Prime, please take note of this. He didn't have anything that was to this drastic of a level, this past year with his game management. But I think we're going to be a better team next year, obviously, and we might be playing in some games that are more important. And we need Coach Prime, to understand. Hey, sometimes you just got to take the points, especially on the road. Especially on the road. Dan Lanning did the same thing against Washington in the regular season. You saw how that turned out. What was it, a 3-point game or a 1-point win, something like that? But he had gone for it in field goal range on multiple occasions in that game, and you saw how that aggressiveness also came to bite them in the butt again in the Pac-12 championship. Sometimes it's okay to take your foot off the gas and just make the logical decision to keep the game where it's at or to extend that lead to another possession. Um, to, I don't understand how he was able to make this decision twice in this game, Dan Campbell. How he negated going from a 2 possession lead to a 3 possession lead, and then he negated tying up the game. And I don't care if your defense, you don't trust your defense, whatever. It was a 3-point game at the end of the day. Dan Campbell failed his team. He failed that fan base. Yes, he's the guy for the job, but man, did he look like Brandon Staley out there today? And that is just absolutely unacceptable. And that fan base deserves so much better than some boneheaded decision making like that. And you can say, hey, their aggressiveness is what's got them there. I just named off the opponents for you. The only tough opponents that they had that were at their level or better was Kansas City and Dallas. Inexcusable. So, yeah. And Peter's bringing up a great comment. We saw Coach Prime make this terrible decision a second time against Stanford. Again, taking the ball first in overtime. That can't happen ever again. I was willing to excuse it against CSU, but man, that should not have happened ever again. Ever again. Zion, I don't know who you're saying I compare to Dan Campbell, not even comparable, but I'm going to compare it. Absolutely. I'm going to compare these guys to it. If we're talking about Zion, or if we're talking about Coach Prime, yeah. Like I mean, I'm not comparing them in terms of the success that they've had or anything like that, but I think they're both the right person to like turn around their teams. Um, and this was inexcusable. I mean, this was Brandon Staley dumbass decision making. This is exactly what Brandon Staley would have done. And these were field goals that have been makeable by a very good field goal kicker that they have in Michael Badgley, and in perfect weather conditions, perfect field conditions. It made absolutely no sense. Dan Campbell failed his team. He absolutely failed his team. And I haven't seen the press conference, but he needs to own this. This loss isn't on it's not on Jahmyr Gibbs. It's not on Jared Goff. It's not on the defense. Whatever, man. No, Dan Campbell allowed the door to stay open because, again, even if you have a Jahmyr Gibbs fumble or something like that, if you kick that field goal, you still have another possession of a lead. We saw how that would have been helpful there at the end of the game when they're losing there by 3. So, all that to say, I'll get to your comments here in a little bit, but I just hope that Coach Prime understands momentum, understands that especially on the road, going up against really good opponents, just take the points. There's no shame in that. Just take the points. Read the room. Understand how the game is going. Don't put pressure on your quarterback to have to be that guy every single drive. Really flawed. Y'all go subscribe, by the way, to Really Flawed. She's getting her YouTube channel rolling. If this is about not taking the points and or the terrible clock management inside 2 minutes with 3 timeouts, not kicking the field goal sooner, I agree with you with that as well. Yes, another great point about the clock management under 2 minutes. That was like a throwback Andy Reid, no doubt, with how he managed that. Probably wouldn't have made a huge difference, but it still would have made a difference. I mean, they could have gotten the Niners to have a 3 and out. And I'll say this, I've criticized and hated on, Brock Purdy all year, man. Credit to him, man. Credit to him. He played poised. Credit to him. He proved me wrong. I'm rooting for the Niners because the media is trying to push Taylor Swift onto real football fanatics. Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for the Niners because 'cause I'm a Broncos fan, so that's obvious, but I kinda like the whole Taylor Swift thing, honestly, because, not only has, like, Coach Prime gotten Lex way more into football, but I think Taylor Swift is bringing a lot more like, she is getting other women interested in football, and I think that's a good thing, but I am rooting for the Niners too. What's up, Coach Kev? Said it right there. He had 2 opportunities to kick the field goal, and it cost him the game. What an idiot. Yeah, I've never seen a team, like, shoot themselves in the foot and a head coach just, be the leader in ushering that in. They were playing fine. They were playing fine until he started getting arrogant, thinking that he could play the same way in the regular season against inferior opponents as he was against the 49ers on the road in a playoff game. Shame on him. Like, I rarely get on here, like, all pissed off when I see coaches do things. Again, the Detroit fan base deserves so much better for them to go out because their head coach was an idiot. Oh, yeah, I also want to bring this up. BJ Green, 2 crystal balls to Colorado. That's what I'm talking about. Edge at Arizona State, one of the best edges in the portal. Would be fantastic if we can make that official here soon. Rounds out a very good edge rotation. Probably him, BJ Green, Samuel Okunlowa, Keaton Wade, Arden Walker. I'm guessing that would be our top 4 edge rotating guys right now. This would be fantastic. I thought they faced the Ravens on the road and won. Oh, yeah, they lost, my bad. I read that wrong. Yeah, they faced the Ravens on the road and lost 38-6. Yeah, I am, and I don't, like, know any Lions fans personally, but man, I mean, they must feel even worse than Bills fans, right? Like, I can't even imagine. Oh, no, this is what you're saying. Yeah, Zion, I'm gonna compare him to Coach Prime. That's not a good comparison. I mean, I again, I don't like, if you think I'm making this like a one-to-one comparison, no, I'm just saying, like, we both have long-suffering fan bases. I'm hoping in important games, hey, sometimes you coach that a little bit differently from a management perspective than you do, against games where you're having your way with some teams. Like, understand the nuance, especially when you're on the road, because really good teams, when you're facing them on the road, they can get that momentum back real quick. So, but they're both culture changers. Um, um, I think you might be reading in a little too much into this comparison. See, okay. See, you guys are reading too much into this. Prime is not going for it twice in a row and leaving points on the board. Dan Campbell is known for this. We can put ourselves in hypotheticals all, like all this stuff. Say, would he do this in the same exact situation? We saw him try and go down the field 98 yards when we were doing nothing on offense in the first half. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, read the room, and sometimes it's okay to make the right decision. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes it's okay to just make the right conservative decision. Sometimes it's okay to take the ball or to defer taking the ball in overtime, to go second, to go on, to go on defense first, right? Sometimes it's okay to make the right decision. You know, might not be the coolest one. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here, but appreciate you guys so much. Man, hopefully we got some more news to talk about tomorrow, man. We'll just have to see, but I'm hoping Coach Prime, hey, take note of this, man. We can never have you Dan Campbell and anything out there, for us. Um, Again, I think he's had enough to learn from, like with that Oregon State fiasco, the Stanford fiasco, the overtime stuff, right? And he will be a better coach. But I'm hoping that Dan Campbell, for his sake and for Lions fans' sake, he learns from this and he becomes a better game manager because now he's been through it. And sometimes you have to go through getting burned by this decision making in order to come out better. Again, Andy Reid was known for this for, a big part of his career as well. And, he's gotten better. And again, he hasn't put that pressure on Mahomes very often to make up for his game management mistakes. It still happens every now and then, but, not to the level that it used to. So, anyways, guys, y'all have a wonderful evening. I will be back tomorrow. And hey, go Niners, go Niners, go Niners, go Niners, go Buffs.